worry about. Pretty smooth, actually. Thanks so much for the report.
Sorry about that. All right. Couldn't get very high at El Cap or at Blossom, and once I got to about $2,000, I think, I'm just guessing, I left. It's a lot more sinky across the valley than it was yesterday. Of course, I'm on speed bar too to just kind of speed this crossing up. He said it's south-southeast at the weather station. Oh, there's some lift right there. Middle of the valley. Excuse me. It's about the same altitude that I got here yesterday. There's not much over here. Shoot. So I want to share a quick story about my life. Let's rewind to 2000 and it was Y2K. People were worried that the computer systems were going to collapse because there wasn't a 2000 number and there was going to be all kinds of problems. And right about that time, I was messing around with drugs. And so I ended up getting really hooked on cocaine to the point where, I was up late, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. The guy that I was getting high with was a guy that I worked with, and he made a decision to, instead of just doing cocaine powder, he wanted to do some crack. And I had never done that, which, if you don't know what that means, it means you smoke it. And I think it has some really detrimental effects on your brain. I mean, obviously you see people losing all their belongings, and I was one of those statistics. And so very quickly ended up giving all my belongings to the drug dealers so I could pay for more and keep my high going. And I ended up getting to a place where I had this little hustle that I did, and the little hustle involved stealing retread diesel tires. And I don't even know where I got the idea, but I went to this shop, and it was in the broad daylight, and they were selling these tires. And I just went to the counter, had a little pickup truck, and I told him, hey, I need a couple retreads, and I gave him a name of a tire place that I made up. And the guy must have not understood, and he assumed that I was, just this white kid coming to buy some tires on a PO number. And so I bought them, and then obviously I didn't give him any money. They put it on somebody's account. By the way, sorry for that, whoever that was. And so I took those tires, and diesel tires are not cheap. Took it to a guy, and I knew that he had a bunch of tractor trailers, and I said, hey, I got these tires for sale. And I really didn't know how much they were worth, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to just throw out a number and see if he bites. And sure enough, it worked. The guy gave me some money and I went and got high. And so fast forward, a few weeks go by, maybe months, and I would do that hustle all the time. And one night I decided to go in the middle of the night because I knew that those tires were not locked up for the most part. It's a place where you could just kind of pull up into the parking lot and load them up. And I made the mistake of trying to steal it in the night because security's waiting for that kind of stuff and they're watching for me. Well, anyways, I take the tire, they call the police, and while I was driving away, one of the truck drivers started following me, and obviously he was on the police. He was giving the police every detail that they needed to catch up to me, and so this is in South Phoenix. And they started chasing me, and the police chase lasted about 22 minutes is what it said in the discovery clause, but I ended up crashing, and I felt the weight of the truck and the steering wheel pressing on me for just a minute. I squeezed out, and oddly enough, I was uninjured, and I made a run for it. And as I ran, maybe 10 minutes worth of running, I ran into this. It was a construction site, actually it was a site where they mine and sell cement. So there were cement trucks, and anyways, the place where they call the washout is where I went, and I was running in this muck. By the time I got to the bottom, it was this white muck, and I have like, I don't know, 10 different police officers on foot chasing me into this mucky stuff. And I kind of ran until I couldn't run anymore. I collapsed in the bushes, thinking that, you know, if I just lay there calmly enough that they won't find me. Or I don't know what I was thinking. I was obviously sick because I hadn't eaten properly in weeks and weeks, and I knew that it was kind of a do or die situation. And so anyways, I ended up, my plan was foiled, and I ended up going to jail. So I went to jail for a full year, and in county jail. My first plea bargain that came, I took it. They gave me an opportunity to get out with 1 year in county jail and a 7-year tail of probation. So that also came with a bunch of classes and courses and some anger management stuff, community punishment program, etc. So 2001, I turned 21 in jail. This sad situation there. But then I do my time. I get out. My mom's the one that meets me, and I get to experience freedom again for the first time in a year. It's kind of weird. I spent a couple stints in solitary confinement, so I had a lot of time to think and, what's this life about? What am I doing here? Is this life all about money? Is it about your houses? Is it about relationships and power and politics? What is this about? So anyways, enough time and you'll go crazy in your mind. But I remember this one day that I was out and I was kind of staying with friends because I had no job and no place to live really. I got a job at Pizza Hut. I was staying with my mom, and my mom was actually staying with someone, so it wasn't a really good living situation. I'm surprised probation let me do it. But then I moved to another place in Mason. This is where I met my wife. It was actually Chandler, and in Arizona. And so one night I get this call from my probation officer. He says, "Hey, I got bad news for you. You got to move. You can't live in that house." And I'll save the details. But anyways, I had to move out. And they told me basically I had about a week to figure out what I was going to do. They wanted me to go to a halfway house if I couldn't find anything. And so I went on a rampage trying to find an apartment. And one night I got really frustrated. There was a little argument between me and my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now. And I thought, man, I don't know what this life is about. I don't know what the heck I'm doing here, but I want off this planet. And so I made a decision that I was going to go and commit suicide. You know, I've got no good job. I got no real future. My record, what I pled guilty to was a aggravated assault on a police officer with a deadly weapon, which was the truck, because they would hit me with the truck to try to get me to spin out, and that's considered the pit maneuver is, because they had to do that, that puts their lives in danger, and so that's a class 2 felony. So long story short, I went down to the park with the intention of taking my life, and I got a little nervous that if the Christians were right, if the people, these church people, these goody two-shoes, judgmental little weirdos, if they were right and I was wrong, I was going to go to hell. And I said, well, if heaven and hell is real and God is real, and people say that they talk to God, I said, I'm gonna find out if he's real. In kind of an arrogant way, I said, God, if you're real, show me. If you're real, I'll go to church. I'll be a goody. I'll do whatever you want. And I wasn't really sure if anybody was listening, but I'm like, what do I have to lose to ask, if there is something out there? And I just sat there, and I don't remember exactly everything I said, but it was something along the lines of, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you. And it was the most sincere prayer I probably had ever prayed in my entire life. I was so close to death, and many times I had thought about suicide. I actually attempted suicide in the back of the squad car, choked myself out with my shoelace, but something stopped me. I ended up pulling out of that little noose. But so fast forward, I said this sincere prayer, and I went to that park with the intention of committing suicide, and I ended up walking home kind of zombie-ish, not sure exactly what just happened, but there was no way that I could hurt myself. And so the only thing I could say is, like, there was just something happened in the supernatural realm. Oh, that was big. So I go to the house. I've got the time's ticking, the clock's ticking. I got to find a place to live. And I think it was like 2 or 3 days after, maybe a week after I had said that prayer, I get a phone call. These apartment complex that I had applied for, who originally told me that they were a crime-free community, which meant they didn't allow felonies or felons to be on the lease. You could live there if you're a felon, if you were living with someone else, but you couldn't get a lease agreement. And they said, hey, we had a talk with management. We want to let you move in. There's a move-in special, yada, yada. And I got an opportunity to move in. So me and my wife and our daughter, Saley, at the time, we've got nothing, but we're going to move in to this apartment. And so we're excited. Keep in mind, I totally forgot that I had said this prayer just a week earlier. And we move in, we get all our stuff in, and I've got like 20 blankets all piled up, and that was my bed, and me and my wife's bed. And Saley had her own room, and in her room she had an actual bed, and we had this couch that smelled like cigarettes, and both my wife and I both smoked at the time, so that couch was like a hand-me-down thing. And anyways, needless to say, we were super happy because something had happened, and now we had a place. And I'm taking out the trash one night. It's probably like 9:30, take the trash in the community dumpster. You know, I go throw the trash, and there's a guy. He's wearing a tank top. He's covered with tattoos. Throws his trash at the same time, and we kind of pass by each other. And he goes, "Hey," "Nice to meet you. I'm your next door neighbor." He goes, "I'm the guy that lives directly next door to you." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Nice to meet you." Shook hands, and he's like, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" He's like, "How's your heart with God?" I'm like, "What the heck?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I did 10 years in prison," and I kind of knew that because of the tattoos that he had. It's all prison tattoos. And I said, "Yeah, I've prayed before," and I was thinking back, praying before court and sentencing and all that, and I kind of forgot that I had prayed in the park. And sure enough, he goes, "Hey, would you like to say a sinner's prayer with me? It's a prayer that you get your heart right with God." I'm like, "Yeah, I'd pray that. That'd be awesome. I appreciate that." And so he led me in this prayer. I said the prayer, and it's like right in that moment, it was almost as if God bowed the heavens and said, "Hey, you asked me for a sign. Is that good enough?" And I'm like, "Whoa, man, this is crazy. I can't believe this just happened." I said the prayer. This guy's name is Bernardo Martinez. Rest in peace. He passed away a couple years ago. But he was willing to open his life up for me. Every day I'd come home from work, go over to his house, I'd throw my bag in the house, and I'd ask him questions. How did Jesus walk on water? I had the hard questions. I wanted to know. Part of me wanted to prove that he was wrong, so I didn't have to go to church and be a good person and do what the Bible says. And the other part of me wanted to believe that he was telling me the truth, because if he was right, there was hope, there was life, like good stuff was possible if he was right. Heaven is real if he's right. And so this guy was such a good example. Every morning he would get up and he would go to the church and pray before he went to work. And he invited me. He's like, "Hey, you want to come to prayer with me?" And at that time, my probation was very strict, and they required me to give them my every detail. So if I was going to be going out to eat, I had to put that on my little sheet before I could go. And anyways, I made up a story and told them I couldn't really go, although I could have. I just didn't want to use my free time for that. It just shows you how jacked up my heart was, or how jacked up my heart is. And so anyways, I got my release paper from my probation that said you're going to be on just basically like a regular probation instead of the intensive probation, because I was a flight risk and all that. And they said, "You're off." And the day that I signed my release and whatever at that meeting with my probation officer, I was coming home, and Bernardo knew. It was like crazy. I never told him, but it was like he knew. He was like, "Hey, you want to come to church tomorrow?" And I said, "You know what? I would like that. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm in." And so I had no driver's license for 5 years, and so it was kind of a weird situation for me. But he was like, "Yeah, I got you, man. I'll give you a ride." And so we rode together, and we got to church, and I swear the preacher, it was like he knew who I was. And there's 600 people in that church. That's the Chandler Church. I hear the preaching. I'm moved. I'm gonna tell you something, man. My life got radically changed.
I'm gonna head back. This harness is kind of uncomfortable. It's cutting into my leg.
Yeah, I'm right behind you. So the preacher's preaching. He's talking about, sin, and he's preaching about different things, and I don't really know the Bible that much, but the things that he was saying, man, was so interesting, because it was It was like he was talking to me. And at the end of the sermon, he's asked everybody to bow their heads, and everybody got quiet. And he says, if there's anybody in here that would like to know Jesus as their Lord and Savior and invite Jesus into their heart, I want to lead you in a prayer. And if that's you, raise your hand. And I'm like, oh no, I don't want to. I'm there, but I'm feeling like these are good people. These are all like really nice Christian goody like nice people, and I'm just like dirty. I felt ashamed, like I was unclean in the church. And anyways, I raised my hand. I thought, well, I was crazy enough to do drugs or whatever, and if there was a party, I was always the obnoxious loud one. And I said, I'm gonna raise my hand. I don't care what people think. And I raised my hand, went to an altar, and I think Bernardo probably came and prayed with me at the altar, and I wept at that altar, man. Tears hit the altar, man. I remember feeling this weight of all my shame and the weight of my bad decisions for 20 years, just all piled up. The burden came off, man, and I began to go to church every Sunday, twice on Sunday, and once on Wednesday. And we would, there'd be sermons that they would preach that were sermons that would challenge you. Sometimes they make you feel bad. Sometimes they encourage you. Sometimes the sermon will make you cry. Sometimes they make you laugh till your stomach hurts. And all just out of the Bible, different stories and different preachers, and it was just, man, can't describe it. But somebody asked me not too long ago what it was that changed me or what made me what I am, and it's God, man. I said a prayer, and God is real. The Bible says it's something like this: seek and you shall find, knock and it will be open to you. What's that? I can't hear you.
Probably a nicer day than yesterday.
You redeemed yourself from yesterday? Is that what you said?
No, it's a nicer day than yesterday.
Oh yeah, definitely better. Super nice. So if I can just share my message, and I know it's I'm probably ticked off a bunch of people that are not cool with the God stuff. A lot of people got beef with God, and I understand. I got questions when I get to heaven too. I don't have all the answers. But I will say this, man. My worst day as a Christian is still way better than my best day as a sinner. So grateful to have a chance, Family, blessed, outrageously blessed. Such an important thing to be grateful. Yeah, but back to what I was saying. I know there's going to be a lot of people that are mad, but there's a good chance those people have already logged off and didn't hear any more of the message. And again, I get it. People go through stuff, man. They have a wrong impression. Maybe somebody told them something about what it was to be a Christian, or maybe there were Christians that are bad examples. And listen, I'm not perfect. I'm not the best example. The goal is to be better, do better, be kind to people. Jesus said, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your strength, all your soul. And then he said the second command is you would love your neighbor as yourself. And man, I'm telling you, if people got that, just love people, man. Just care about people. If you do that, change the world. Yeah, so anyways, if you made it this far, appreciate you sticking around and listening. And just love somebody. You never know what somebody's going through, man. Nobody had a clue I was suicidal. I went years every day thinking, you know, if it gets any worse, I'm just gonna kill myself. Nobody knew. I didn't say nothing. You know, you have some people they'll tell you and be like, I'm gonna commit suicide. And most of the time they're saying it because they may have the fleeting thought, but they're probably not gonna do it. But you never know, man. You never know what somebody's going through and what people are dealing with. Just be kind to people. Love people, man. Yeah, I know it's easy to say. Yep. So anyways, thanks for listening. And I'll catch you on the next one. Missed my landing.